Hello, good evening, Sharai. How are you? Is everything okay?
Good evening, teacher. Yes, everything's fine. Thank you.
Great. That's great to know, Sharai. So let's keep working. Today, well, actually, today and next conversation, we're going to be working with essays. As you know, we're working with the structure. So we're going to be reading examples, actually, so that you have an idea, right, of how you are going to be adding this information to your own essay. Okay, so we're going to be reading about the introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusions by seeing all the details that we're going to be using in our own essays. So let's begin by the introduction, please, Sharayer. We remember that so far we covered two parts. As you can see here, we have three in total. One that is the hook, right? The phrase, the sentence actually, that is going to catch the reader's attention. The second part that is the background, or it can be also the outline, right? You remember you have many options for the second or the second and third sentences. Usually it's only the second one, but it can be a third one as well. And you have the final one that is going to be the thesis statement. So let's read what we have here, please, Sharai. Let's read all the introduction.
Okay. The spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect, not least on the world of education. The use of the internet in academic context is on the rise, and its role in learning is hotly debated. For many teachers who didn't know not grow up with this technology, its effects seem alarming and potentially harmful. This concern, while understandable, is misguided. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators. As a uniquely is comprehensive and accessibly information source, a, mean, a means of exposure to an engagement with different perspectives, and a highly flexible learning environment.
Thank you very much, Sharai. So here the most important part is that we are supposed to write at least three sentences, all right? One that is going to be the hook, the other one that is going to be the background, and the other one that is going to be the thesis statement. But as you can see over here, most of them can be developed in more than one sentence because actually it's very hard to get only one sentence for the background and only one sentence for the thesis statement. So you can have a little bit more, of course, but it depends on how you're going to be developing your essay itself. It can be less than this. This can only be perhaps one sentence, and then this can be a maximum of two sentences, but it depends. So the important thing here is to recognize, right, how they are dividing this information. I don't know if you have questions regarding this information over here, Sharai, or perhaps if you have something to comment about it.
Yes, teacher. What's the meaning of outweighed? Outweighed? What is
All
that
right.
referring?
Good. So we're going to understand by context, right? Do you know what's weight, right? The important thing over there it's weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You understand the meaning of weight? Only the word weight?
Uh, yes.
Okay, good, right? So weight can be, for example, I don't know, 88 kilograms, right? Something like that. Okay, so
Yes.
let's have that in mind, right? That's a weight. For example, I can say, right, my weight is 70 kilograms and his weight is, I don't know, right, 90 kilograms, etc. So this concern, while understandable, is misguided, it says. The negatives of the internet, right, or of internet. So you can say the negative sides, the negative aspects, or you can say the negatives. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits. So what do you understand here? You can understand this by putting in a balance. When do you think that something is outweighed, Sharai? With the explanation also that it can be referred to 70 kilograms and so on.
Mm, maybe it's referring something it's out of place.
Could be, yes, more than a place. For example, in this example, to understand this better, it says we have the negatives of internet on one side, right? Let's try to imagine that we have a balance, right? We have a balance. On the one side of the balance, we have the negatives of the internet. And on the other side of the balance, we have, right, its critical benefits for students and educators. So according to this part, the negatives of the internet are used, sorry, are outweighed by its critical, right, benefits for students and educators. Which one do you think is heavier, right? Let's talk about which one is heavy. Which one is heavier? The negatives of the internet or of internet use or the critical benefits for students, according to this part of the essay, Shari? Which one do you believe is heavier?
In this case, the most heavier is the negative of internet uses.
Okay, okay, we can understand that like that. And it says, let's continue to see if it's correct, right? As a unique, comprehensive, and accessible information source, as means of exposure, sorry, and engagement with different perspectives and a highly flexible learning environment. So yes, it seems at the end they are giving more information about the last one, to try to show that actually there are many other positive things about the internet, right? Not only the negative ones. So yes, when we're going to use outweighed, right, are outweighed, then it's going to be on the side of this one, the one that you're mentioning first. So something that is going to be, right, outweighed by something, it means that it's going to be sometimes like even more important. So in this case, they are giving more importance to the negative sides of the internet than to the critical benefits. All right, that's going to
Mhm.
be more or less the idea that they are going to transmit or they are trying to transmit over here. I don't know if you have any other questions or observations here. Shall I? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, no more questions.
Okay, let's go now to the body paragraph. Okay, but let's have this in mind. Let's see, for example, that the hook is something like this, right? It says the spread of internet has had a world-changing effect. This, all right, is let's say an affirmative statement that is very strong. World-changing effect. This is what we need for our hook. We need something that is very, very strong. Words like this, world changing. Then here, background. In your case, I told you, right, it can be that you can talk about the outline. It means what you're going to talk about on your essay, but you can give also background. And remember, you can also give definitions of key
Mm.
terms, right? The important thing is that in this part, you either clarify some words, you either tell us what you're going to talk about on your essay, or you can give us some background related to that. And finally, as we know that the topic is the internet, you have to give us, right, what is your thesis statement? In your thesis statement, you're talking about the negatives of internet use and also the critical benefits for students and educators. So, and your thesis statement is this affirmation, all right, that the negatives of the internet or of internet use are overweighted by its critical benefits for students and educators. So that affirmation, that affirmative statement is your thesis statement. And this that you have over here, all this information, as you see, it's with dash and dash, it's only like extra things that you're still developing. And also the next part. But the most important part here is this one, until educators. Now, let's go to the body. At least we're going to read a little bit. Let's try to read everything, actually, please, Sharai. A common frustration until the end.
Okay. A common frustration for teacher is student use of Wikipedia as a source in their writing. Its prevalence among students is not exaggerated. A survey found that the vast majority of the students surveyed used Wikipedia. An article in the Guardian stressed a common objective to its use. A reliance on Wikipedia can discourage students from engaging with genuine academic writing. Teachers are clearly not mistaken in viewing Wikipedia usage as ubiquitous, ubi, I don't know how to pronounce that, teacher.
Okay, continue, Shari. We're going to check all those at the end.
Okay, teachers are clearly not mistaken in viewing Wikipedia usage as ubiquitous among their students, but they claim that it discourages engagement with academic sources requires further investigation. This point is treated as self-evident by many teachers, but Wikipedia itself explicitly encourages students to look into their sources. Its articles often provide reference to academic publications and include warning notes where citations are missing. The site's own guidelines for research make clear that it should be used as a starting point, emphasizing that users should always read the reference and check whether they really do support what the article says. Indeed, for many students, Wikipedia is their first encounter with the concepts of citation and referencing. The use of Wikipedia therefore has a positive side that merits deeper consideration than it often receives.
Thank you very much, Shari. So, first, let's go to, I think that was the only problem in terms of pronunciation. But after this, the first thing we check is that one. But I'm going to try, or sorry, I'm going to ask you to try once again a couple of words, and I'm going to mark them, all right? To try to put emphasis on the right pronunciation over there. Of course, this one, but we're going to try once again with you. Then it was only one. This one again, some of them are very good, but are details that I want to all right, verify. I think those were the ones that we're highlighting the most. Let's try to read those words again, please, Shari.
Okay, the first one is genuine. The second one, well, I don't know, ubiquitous. And the third one is emphasizing.
Okay, good. I think it's good. The only one, this, of course, we're going to be correcting. Good, right? Genuine, good. This is going to be like ubiquitous, all right? Ubiquitous, ubiquitous. This T can be strong, so you can say ubiquitous if you want, ubiquitous. But ubiquitous is going to be more like American English. And something ubiquitous, right? It's something that is everywhere, all right? Something that is everywhere. And this one I think was great, right? Emphasizing. Good. Genuine, ubiquitous, and emphasizing. Good. Now, this is an example of a paragraph, only one paragraph actually, one body paragraph. And as you can see, it can be very complex because the kind of essay that we are learning here is the kind of essay that you can use at university essays. They are very complex. But once you understand those parts, and actually we're going to learn this tomorrow on Wednesday in detail, because you're going to see that we need at least these parts. First, topic sentence. All right, every, let's say, a paragraph, every body paragraph is going to have its own topic sentence. Of course, here we don't have any connectors, but with you, we're going to be working with connectors, all right? Remember, we're going to be using transitional words, transitional phrases, first of all, to start, to begin with, to commence, right? And so on and so forth. So first, you have to tell briefly what your body paragraph is going to be about. Then you show some evidence, all right? As you can see here, they are talking about an article and they are using quotation marks over here. Yes, then after you show the evidence, you have two more. This is very interesting. You have to show that you understand your own, right, quoting. It means that if you're going to show something related to a specific, I don't know, right, saying, you have to show that you understand that. Either if you agree or not, you need to show your own interpretation related to that. Then it says counter evidence. Actually, this is not going to be obligatory. Here, instead of counter evidence, you can develop a little bit more. This is optional. you're going to either develop more about what you understand about this saying and why do you believe this was important to mention, or you can simply work with counter evidence, right? But this is going to be only to put more emphasis on your own evidence over here. And finally, it says the final sentence is like the conclusion of that paragraph, in which again you're going to be showing why this was important to mention, and briefly you can make a short summary of the information you have here. All right, but again, we're going to be working that in detail tomorrow. But here, and to finish this, I don't know if you have questions related to some words over here. Sharai, let me know, please.
No, teacher. I don't have any questions.
Okay, that's good. Then let's keep this in mind, please. The intention and the right idea of reading this is to have ideas. Try to have that in mind, and because tomorrow we're going to keep working on the introduction. We're going to finish the introduction and we're going to start working this, the body paragraphs. So have in mind that your body paragraph can be very complex, but try to get some information, try to get some articles if you want related to the topic that you chose, Sharai, so that you're ready tomorrow. That's it. Then have a good night, Sharai, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.
Okay, teacher. See you tomorrow.
Bye bye. See you tomorrow. Hello, good evening, Lourdes. How are you?
Hi, teacher. I'm fine, thank you.
That's great. Great, Lourdes. So let's begin with today's reading exercise. You know, we're going to be actually reading examples of argumentative essays because you know that this is the thing we're doing now. You're learning how to write essays from the very beginning to the last part. That was what you were doing. We were doing yesterday, right, with your partners. We worked with the first sentence, and they were supposed to work the second one or the second part of the introduction. We're going to do that step by step, sentence by sentence, idea by idea, because there are specific steps to write these academic essays, in this case, the argumentative ones. So today we're going to start by reading the introduction and at least the body paragraph as well. This is the introduction, all right, or an example of an introduction in an argumentative essay. Let's read it, please, Lourdes.
Okay, the spirit of the internet has had a world-changing effect, not least on the world of education. The use of the internet in academic context is on the rise, and its role in learning is hotly debated. For many teachers who did not grow up with this technology, its effects seem alarming and potentially harmful. This concern, while understandable, is misguided. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators as a uniquely comprehensive and accessible information source, a means of exposure to an engagement with different perspectives, and a highly flexible learning environment.
Thank you very much, Lourdes. Now, this is only the introduction, right? This is only the introduction. We have three important parts over here. Okay, and we're going to see the questions that you have, but the three important parts that, for example, we were learning yesterday, actually, we only covered two, and we only wrote the first one. The hook is the first one. The hook is going to be like a very important sentence to start your introduction, to begin your essay, that is going to show a very attractive idea to the reader. So this is very, very important because this may, right, the reader keep reading your essay or perhaps stop doing it. So for example, words like world changing, that is very, very strong, right? So it says, right, the spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect. It means that it's very, very strong. That's a good hook. After that, you have the option of talking about background, context, social context, religious context. Other options are talking about keywords. You can give definitions here. For example, if in your hook you are using a term that is hard to understand for other kinds of readers, it's important that here you give the definition of that word. So the second part can be for background, general context, definition of key terms or keywords. Also, you can give the outline of your essay. It means that you can mention what you're going to be talking about in the body paragraphs. And finally, this can be perhaps sometimes it can be one sentence, sometimes it can be two sentences, three sentences, but from one to two is more than enough. In this case, this person wrote more than two, which is also okay, but we advise two at least. And in the thesis statement, you're going to show something specific about the topic, all right, in general. Now, I want you to please to ask me questions that you have related to this, Lourdes.
I think that I don't have any questions about this structure, so everything is clear to me.
Very good. Great. So tomorrow we're going to put this into practice. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to finish at the beginning of the class. We're going to work with the second part. Some of your partners, you can also do it as well, Lourdes, if you want to catch up. You can work the first idea and you can work the second one as well. Tomorrow I'm going to give that a look. I'm going to tell you what I think about those. And we're going to work only with the thesis statement. And we're going to finally go to the body paragraphs that are going to be the main idea for tomorrow's class. So actually, as we don't have any questions there, let's go now to this part and let's read everything, please. It's a lot of information, but it's going to be, again, very important to know the structure of a body paragraph. Let's do it, please.
Okay, a common frustration for teachers is students' use of Wikipedia as a source in their writing. Its prevalence among students is not exaggerated. A survey found that the vast majority of the students surveyed use Wikipedia. Head and Heisenberg, 2010, an article in the Guardian stressed a common objection to its use. A reliance of on Wikipedia can discourage students from engaging with genuine academic writing. Teachers are clearly not mistaken in viewing Wikipedia usage as ubiquitous. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that word among their students, but the claim that it discourages engagement with academic sources requires further investigation. This point is treated as self-evident by many teachers, but Wikipedia itself explicitly encourage students to look into their sources. Its articles often provide reference to academic publications and include warning notes where citations are missing. Decides on guidelines for research make clear that it should be used as a starting point, emphasizing that users should always read the reference and check whether they really do support what the article says. Indeed, for many students, Wikipedia is their first encounter with the concepts of citation and referencing. The use of Wikipedia, therefore, was a positive side that merits deeper consideration than it often receives.
Good, perfect. Thank you very much, Lucas. All right, so now we're going to work on some details. Again, the words is not that if I mark them, all right, it's not that they're incorrect, but perhaps it's a little bit with stress, or perhaps I only want to verify because sometimes, right, we make mistakes, but I think the second time that you read some of the words, it was better. So let's try to start reading, please. Let's read the words that are marked, Lucas.
Okay, survey, um, reliance. Uh, this one I I can't pronunciate it. Ubiquitous. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
Encourage. Referencing.
Okay, good, good. Again, there are details. So in this one, it's going to be that A like E only, like survey, all right, like survey. So you have one survey, two surveys, right? So it's going to be a survey. Very close, survey. This is going to be reliance, all right? Reliance, right? When you rely on something, when you trust something. So a reliance on Wikipedia, all right? A reliance, the trust that you have on Wikipedia. Then this is going to be like ubiquitous, all right? Ubiquitous. Something ubiquitous or ubiquitous, the both are correct, ubiquitous, is something that is everywhere, all right? Something that appears or that then can happen everywhere and at any time. This one is okay, but I think you're only forgetting that this time it's with third person. So instead of only encourage, it's going to be encourages, right? Encourages, because we have the S of the third person, right? So Wikipedia itself explicitly, right, encourages students. Finally, this was good, the second one, I think, right? Referencing. So the stress is in the fe, more or less, referencing, right? Referencing. Actually, it's in the first E, right? Referencing. Because the first time you read it, it was like in the middle, the stress that was incorrect, but I think the second time you did it good. Now, to finish this, I don't know if you have any questions or observations. Look at this.
No, teacher, everything it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. Just to finish and to close this up, right, to wrap this up, tomorrow we're going to learn in detail how to write this first sentence, the second, the third one, the fourth idea, and the last one. But just to show you this as something that you can think of for tomorrow, because tomorrow you're going to need to write this, is that every body paragraph, we need at least write three, but we're going to work with only two. And of course, I'm not going to ask you to write like extended versions of the body paragraph like this one. Topic sentence, it has to be, right? It's very important. Evidence, it has to be. This is like also like the main thing of every body paragraph in argumentative essays. And interpretation. This is very important because you need to show that you understand what you're talking about. Finally, this counter evidence is not always as important. As you can see, it's very long, but for the essays that we're going to be working, perhaps we're not going to be using this information. Instead, I'm going to ask you to try to interpret a little bit more. And finally, you need to have your final sentence or your conclusion, right, related to a short summary of everything that you mentioned. And that's it. So keep thinking of some ideas for tomorrow, because as I told you, we're going to work with the introduction, the complete introduction, and we're going to start working with at least one body paragraph you're going to learn with me. The second one, you're going to do it by yourself, and the conclusion is going to be for Friday. Okay? Perhaps any questions related to that last information, let me know, please.
No, teacher, everything it's clear.
Great, perfect. So that's it. Have a good night, Lourdes, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.
Okay, teacher, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome. Hello, good evening, Mariana. How are you?
How are you, teacher? Everything's fine, thank you.
That's great. Very good, Mariana. So let's begin with today's reading exercise, reading practice, or reading session. Now that we're working with essays, in terms of the
Okay.
structure, it's important that you can read, right, examples of those essays. We are working specifically, right, with argumentative essays. It means that right now I'm going to make you read, Mariana, the introduction and the body paragraph of one argumentative essay so that you understand more or less what you need to do. Now, related to yesterday, for example, in the sentence that you were writing at the beginning, one important thing that it's kind of hard to get at the beginning is that if your sentence starts with what, or if your sentence starts with how or why, it means that perhaps it's not going to be considered as a sentence. For example, look, I'm going to write that in the chat actually. Let me go to the chat. For example, right? What if I say, I think, right? I think that is like a sentence. Actually, that is considered a sentence, right? Just I think. That is a sentence, and actually, that is a complete sentence. I think, all right, and a complete idea. You can have, of course, objects and so on, but it's a complete idea. But if you simply what that sentence, according to English, all right, and according even if this happens to Spanish, this is not a sentence anymore. This is considered a phrase, noun phrase. So it means that this can be used as object, this can be used as subject. So you need something else, right? But I think is that you are a great person, right? And you can finish that by saying that. What I think is going to be like the subject is the verb, right? And the rest of the idea is the complement. When you have a verb like is, you need extra information, right? You need extra information. So why am I sharing you this, Mariana? Because, for example, in your example yesterday, the topic I think is great that you can mention any topic, but if you mention your first idea with how, in the way you did it, then it's not a complete sentence. It's incomplete. We need to say something, right? How this works, right? Or how, I don't know, whatever topic you want, but that can be the subject of your idea. Or if you check your partner's examples, for example, Melissa was writing also at the beginning an idea with how, but I told her, this is more like a phrase. This is more like a title, right? But we don't need a title. We need the first sentence, the first catchy sentence for your introduction. And you can take a look at then Sharai's, I think, example, then witness example, and I think finally Melissa's one, because we were working with that one. Only that clarification, Mariana. And also, if you want to have a better idea, that's why we are going to read these examples, because you're going to see how the first idea could be, the second one, the third one, and so on. But before going to the reading itself, I don't know if you have any questions or comments, Mariana. Let me know, please.
Yes, teacher. It like it. I don't understand very well that part that if we need a title or just a complete sentence at the first.
Yes, no, we don't need a title. We're only learning about the introduction, and the introduction is sentences, right? Complete sentences. So the first step is the
Okay.
hook. So it's the first complete sentence. Then we need another idea with one complete sentence or two complete sentences. And the final idea, again, one at least, or two or
Okay.
three complete sentences, all right? Okay, very good. So let's
Okay,
read this
teacher.
example.
And for example, it can
Yes,
be.
tell me, Marina, sorry,
Sorry.
tell me.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Sorry, I think the internet is a little bit
Okay.
slow.
Okay, teacher. Yes, it's a little like, but it can be like I think that my first my title it was like how dogs can change your life or something like that. It can be like how the love of the it can be sorry love of the dogs can change your life only. Something like that.
Okay, okay, yes, yes. And that only perhaps at the end, yes, try to organize that idea, but yes, that's better. You can say, right? It's try to say it in a very formal way, right? Um, Something that shows, like, for example, in this example, you're going to read that they use words like word changing effect, right? A word changing is a very, very important word and it's very strong. Also, the idea that you're telling me is very strong, but try to show it in a very formal way. Okay, you can say, for example, it is said or it is believed, right? It is believed that, I don't know, right? The love of pets, the love of animals in general, or the love of dogs, right, can change our lives forever. So you can use those strong words like forever and world changing and I don't know, right? The best or even the worst. Try to use superlatives, try to use those strong words so that your catchy phrase is going to be very strong to catch the reader's attention. So that idea is good, Mariana, but try to put a little bit more words or try to organize it in a way in which is a little bit more formal and stronger. Okay?
Thank you.
Very good. You're welcome. Now let's read please this one, Mariana. This is an example of an introduction using all the steps that we are going to apply. Let's read this, please.
Okay, the spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect, not least on the world of education. The use of the internet in academic context is on the rise, and its role in learning is hotly debated. For many teachers who did not grow up with this technology, its effects seem alarming and potentially harmful. This concern, while understandable, is missing. I don't know the word, sorry. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators. As an unlikely comprehensive and accessible information source, a means of experts to an engagement with different perspectives, and highly flexible learning environment.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mariana. Very good. Just this word, right? I'm going to help you out. This is going to be like misguided, right? Misguided. And this is going to be
Okay.
comprehensive. So that H has to be noticeable. Comprehensive, all right? Misguided, comprehensive. And I think the rest of the words were very well pronounced, Mariana. Now, before going to the, all right, to the specifics, I want to show you that this example is using all of the steps that we're going to learn with introduction. This is the hook, right? As you can see, this is one complete sentence. The spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect, comma, and this is final clarification. And this is not a complete sentence. Not least on the world of education, right? A final clarification with comma or with dash. Then, after that, you have options here, Mariana, and it will be good. I was telling this to your partners. You can do this for tomorrow. You have to give me in the second part, Mariana, at least three possible things, and you have to select only one. You can, as they are doing here, give me background, context. So for example, if you're talking about dogs, the love of dogs and how it changes, right, our lives, show me some context. For example, tell me that nowadays it's very common that people adopt, right, dogs to have them there when they have, I don't know, anxiety problems or when they have certain kind of problems and we need help or simply because they like animals. But try to give me that context. Show me also something related to the love of dogs, right? How, I don't know, trainers can feel that. Some kind of information that you believe is a good context for your hook. But remember that it has to be short, very, very short, because the details of that information, Mariana, are going to be given in the body paragraph. This is only the introduction, so it has to be very short. And finally, we need the thesis statement. This is something we're going to do tomorrow in class. The thesis statement is your belief, according, of course, to evidence, but your belief on something. For example, here you can notice that, of course, what is the topic? The internet, right? The topic is, of course, the internet. There are no other topics over here, and education, perhaps, right? So we have internet and education. That is the topic. Then context about the internet, right? How internet is being used in academic context. So they are relating the internet with education. So yes, that's the topic, internet and education. And finally, the thesis statement is more specific. So it says here, the negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators. All right. So there are many negative sides of the internet that are going to be more important than the critical benefits for the students. And that is your thesis statement. Here, after the dash, this is only clarification, a long clarification that is divided into parts, right? This is the first part, first part, semicolon, second part, until here, semicolon, the last part. Why? Because this is a complex list of items, right? That's why we're using that punctuation rule over there after the dash. But the most important part over here, actually, Mariana, it's only until educators. That is the thesis statement. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators. Now, I don't know if you have questions or comments related to this. Again, I'm showing you with the purpose of giving you examples of how you can work in tomorrow's writing, Mariana. What do you say? Any questions or comments? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, I think that I don't have any question.
Okay, good. Now we're going to try to read at least a part of this um, body paragraph, Mariana. It's something that we didn't learn yet. I mean, we didn't cover the idea of what is a body paragraph and what do we need. But this is an example of a body paragraph. And as you can see, it's very long because the kind of essay that we're learning is very formal. Let's try to read, please, as much as we can, Mariana. If we can finish everything, it's going to be perfect.
Okay. A common frustration for teachers is students' use of Wikipedia as a source in their writing. Its prevalence among students is not exaggerated. A survey found that the vast majority of the students surveyed use Wikipedia. Head and Ainsberg, 2010, I think, an article in The Guardian stresses a common objection to its use. A reliance on Wikipedia can discourage students from engaging with genuine academic writing. Comer 2013. Teachers are clearly not mistaken in viewing Wikipedia usage as ubiquitous among their students, but they claim that its discouraged engagement with academic sources requires further investigation. This point is treated as a self-evident by many teachers, but Wikipedia itself explicitly encourages students to look into other sources. Its articles often provide references to academic publications and including warning notes where citations are missing. The site's own guidelines for research make clear that it should be used as a starting point, emphasizing that users should always read the references and check whether they really do support what the article says. Wikipedia researching with Wikipedia 2020 ended for many students. Wikipedia is their encounter with the concepts of citation and referencing. The use of Wikipedia, therefore, has a positive side that merits deeper consideration than it often receives.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mariana. Right, we got to finish this. This is great. Because of that, we're not going to cover the details, but I'm just going to mention the following. Tomorrow, we're going to be working with body paragraphs, Mariana, and we're going to follow these steps. The first one, a topic sentence. Every body paragraph needs a topic sentence. Then we have the evidence. You need to show me, right, a very important evidence of what you're saying. You have to interpret that evidence in your own words, right? You have to paraphrase. You need to show that you understand the evidence. This, because of the number of words we have, perhaps we're not going to work the counter evidence, all right? Perhaps we're not going to work in this part. But instead of this, we're going to expand the interpretation and the paraphrasing. And finally, we have the final sentence, which is like the conclusion of your topic, sorry, of your body paragraph, all right? Like a summary of everything you mentioned there here. So again, this is just for you to have in mind, because tomorrow we're going to be finishing the introduction and we're going to be working on only one body paragraph, because the second one is going to be for you, Mariana. I don't know if you have any questions to finish here. Please let me know. I think Mariana left. All right, but now I think Luciana, we can start working with you. Are you there, Luciana?
Hi, teacher.
Hello. All right. So Mariana came
Teacher,
back. Oh,
one
oh, she
question.
left. Okay. Yes, tell me,
I'm
Luciana.
enter from my laptop because I don't see my phone, so I don't know if you can give me 2 minutes.
Yes, of course, no problem.
Sorry. It's like my phone is not very well.
Okay, yes, no problem. The one is more comfortable with you. It's okay, Mariana. Oh, Luciana.
Okay, teacher, I'm going to um, join the class again in just 1 second.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, teacher, sorry. Now can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you very well, Luciana.
Okay.
Great. So let's begin. Today, we've been working with the essay. This week, we are learning the structure of the essay, every part, right? Introduction, body paragraphs, and the conclusion. And we're doing this step by step. So we're learning every sentence that is going to be right in the introduction and every sentence that is going to be in the body paragraph and, of course, in the conclusion. As you can see, we're going to be using something like this. And right now, actually, we're going to read examples of the introduction and the body paragraph, because this is the way we're going to be working. Now, because of the time, let's try to read everything so that I can clarify some things for you, Luciana. And also, if you can, try to catch up with your partners and try to write the first two parts. The explanation is in the class, but again, I'm going to explain when you finish reading this, I'm going to explain what this is about. Let's read first, please.
Okay. The spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect, not least on the world of education. The use of the internet in academic context is on the rise, and its role in learning is hotly debated. For many teachers who did not grow up with this technology, its effects seem alarming and potentially harmful. This concern, while understandable, is misguided. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefit for students and educators. As a unique, comprehensive, and accessible information source, a means of exposure to an engagement with different perspectives and a highly flexible learning environment.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Luciana. So I think in general it was good. We're very good with reading, but let's try to analyze this, all right? An introduction is going to have a minimum of 3 parts. It's the hook, then the background, and finally we have the thesis statement. This is what we did in class, all right? The hook. What is the hook? Is the first sentence of your introduction. And it's going to be very important because it's going to attract the people's attention, all right? The reader's attention. In the sense that you need to write something very interesting that is talking, all right, more than talking about, is mentioning, that is mentioning your topic and is saying something very important about it. For example, here, you can see that the topic is internet and education. That is the topic, internet and education. And the hook is saying that the internet has had a world-changing effect. So this is big, right? This is a big word, world-changing. It means that it has a very big impact. And that's interesting for someone to know. So try to work on this, please. For tomorrow, you can do it, Luciana. So you have this, and we see if it's going to be okay or not. Remember, it has to be one complete sentence. In this case, it's one complete sentence, and you have a comma and you have extra information. But this is not a second complete sentence. No, it's only a phrase, not least on the world of education, right? A phrase. After that, this is also something you can do, Luciana. It's the background. You have actually many options here. After your hook, here you can talk about context. You can show background, right? They are talking about the use of internet in academic context. They are talking about the teachers who didn't grow up, right, with this kind of technology. So this is context. This is background to understand the topic, internet and education. The second option is that you can mention an outline, describe what you're going to be what you're going to talk about. And finally, the third very important option is that you can talk about key terms. If in the hook you used important terms that are hard to understand, just try to describe the key terms over here. And finally, the thesis statement. And actually here, almost everything is only detail. The main thesis statement is this one. The negatives of internet use are outweighed, okay, by its critical benefits for students and educators. So again, the topic is internet and education. This is background about internet and education. And the thesis statement is an affirmation, all right? An affirmative statement that you believe related to your idea. So you believe that the negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students and educators. That is your main idea, and you're going to be showing that idea in your essay. I don't know if you have any questions related to this, Luciana. So far, I only need you to do the first two. For tomorrow, perhaps you can do it. And then tomorrow in the class, we're going to work the third one. Do you have any questions or comments? Let me know, please.
No, teacher. So for tomorrow, for the class, I have to do the first part, right? The like the book, the introduction.
Exactly. And also the second one, the background. Exactly. So you need to do the hook and the background.
I can do
thesis
it respect for any topic, right? To any topic.
Yes, any topic you want, Luciana. All right, any topic you want. And tomorrow in class, you're going to work the thesis statement with me. But at least it's important to have these first two. Perhaps some of your partners are not going to have the second one as well. But if you have this, it's going to be better. All right, so the first one and the second one. And if you have the two, I'm going to start working with the thesis statement. Okay? Good. Now, just one thing to just finish this. We're going to read this very quickly. This is the body paragraph. We're going to also work with this, Luciana, but let's try to read at least until this point, until this part, please, Luciana.
Okay. A common frustration for teachers is students' use of Wikipedia. How can I pronounce right? Wikipedia?
Yes, it can also only be Wikipedia, right? A Wikipedia.
Okay. A common frustration for teachers is a student's use of Wikipedia as a source in their writing. Its prevalence among students is not exaggerated. A survey found that the vast majority of the students surveyed use Wikipedia. Here, an Eisenberg is vital. Sorry, teacher, how can I say that number? Sometimes I get confused with
you can only say 10, 20, or 2010. All right. Okay. Sorry. It's yes, 2010 or 2010.
Okay, 2010. An article in The Guardian stresses a common objection to its use. Our links on Wikipedia can discourage students from engaging with genuine academic writing. Comer 2013.
Okay, good. So the only thing I want you to get here, Luciana, is that also tomorrow we're going to cover the body paragraphs. First, we'll finish the introduction, then we're going to go here. We didn't cover this yet. This is something we're going to do tomorrow. But I want you to pay attention to what you need to know for tomorrow. And perhaps you can look for extra information, Luciana, to have ready. For example, you need a topic sentence. You need to show what you're going to be talking about in this body paragraph. Then you need evidence. And as you can see, evidence is like citations, all right? You need quotes. You need to use someone else's words to work in this part. After the quote, you need to interpret. You need to paraphrase that information. This is something that we're going to see we're going to do because of the number of words, counter evidence, but this is the most important. This one, this one, this one. The one on green is going to be, all right, possible, we don't know. And this one is also very important, the final sentence. So have in mind that tomorrow we're going to also be working with this. So if you can like work a little bit and look for important, all right, saying that you can use for your essay, it's going to be great. At least one or two, it's going to be more than enough, Luciana. Do you have any questions to finish this reading session? Let me know, please.
No, teacher, that's okay. I don't know when we get we can get the essay revised from from yesterday, because I was not sure about it.
Of course, yes. I'm going to do it because you were doing that until yesterday. Now, as I work every day, today I'm going to be free at, let's say, 10 p.m. more or less. So I'm going to try to finish checking almost all of them tonight. If it's not going to be today, it's going to be maximum for tomorrow. But as I did it, right, the last week, it's very possible that it's going to be tonight that I have them ready, and tomorrow you can check them, all right?
Hey, teacher, no worry, it's okay.
Perfect. So I'll see you tomorrow then, Luciana. Have a good night. And if you have any questions for tomorrow, you just let me know.
Okay. Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Perfect. You're welcome. Bye-bye. Hello, good evening, Whitney. How are you?
Good evening, teacher. I'm fine, thanks.
That's great. So let's work with today's session, Whitney. You know that we are now learning about the structure, right, of this very formal essay that I taught you. This essay can be applied to any other kind of essay, but we're learning this one because it's the most important one, is the most commonly used, all right? And in case you're going to study abroad, you're going to be in, I don't know, right, in a US university or UK university, you're going to be using this kind of a structure. So this is an example of an argumentative essay. That is the one that we're learning. And actually it's very good because this is, all right, divided in this way. This is going to show you all the things that we are learning, all right, but with real examples, right? Down below, we're going to do the same with the body paragraph. I think we're not going to get to see the conclusion. We're going to leave that for the end. But at least today, let's work with these first two, the introduction and the body paragraph. Let's start reading the introduction, please.
Okay. The spread of the internet has had a world-changing effect, not less on the world of education. The use of the internet in academic context is on the rise, and its role in learning is hotly debated. For many teachers who did not grow up with this technology, its effects seem alarming and potentially harmful. This concern, while understandable, is mitigated. The negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for student and educator. Has an unlikely, comprehensive, and accessible information source, a means of exposure to an engagement with different perspectives, and highly flexible learning environment.
Perfect. Good. Now, as always, right, we're going to be working with some words that if I'm marking them, it's not that they are like incorrect, very bad, but perhaps there are some little details that we can improve, right? So the last one is going to be these two, all right? So let's try to read this first word, please, with this one over here.
Last.
Okay, this is going to be, remember, the comparative form is less and the superlative form is least, all right? Not least on the world, all right? So that's going to be like least, as if it was like only an I, least. What about this one over here?
Understandable.
Okay, yes, very close. So this is also going to be more like, instead of ooh, it's going to be more like like understandable, right? Understandable between and a. So least understandable, least understandable. We have two words. What about this one?
Misguided.
Very close. That I is going to be like I. That's the one thing that is missing over there. So misguided. All right, misguided. So least understandable, misguided. What about these two words over here?
Unequally compressive.
Okay, here we have to pay attention to this word is going to be very important. Sorry, not word, this letter and this one, right? If you analyze and you take away this ly, it's like unique. So it's going to be uniquely, all right? Uniquely comprehensive. And that H has to be like H. Uniquely comprehensive, all right? Uniquely comprehensive. So we have least, understandable, misguided, and uniquely comprehensive. Okay, we have those so far. What about this one over here?
Exposure.
Good. Just that it's a little bit more like like exposure, right? Exposure, more like and that's it. So once again, Least, understandable, misguided, uniquely comprehensive, and exposure. The last two, please. Well, actually three. Let's read, please, all of them with me. This one and these two.
Enjoyment and highly flexible.
Okay, here, this one I think is good. Flexible, it's good. Then the two, it's going to be engagement, right? Remember, until this part is only engage. You have an engagement ring, right? Or you have an engagement is something in which you are involved and you really want that to be okay. So engagement and highly, right? You have high and then you have ly that is going to be highly, like this one, right? Uniquely, uniquely, highly, right? So one last time, I'm going to read all of the words and then you read them all again, please, with me. So least, understandable, misguided, uniquely comprehensive, exposure, engagement, and highly flexible, right? Let's read all those words that are marked, please, with me.
Okay, least, understandable,
Good.
misguided, uniquely, comprehensive. Sorry, I can pronounce correctly this word.
That one, I'm going to help you out one more time. It's going to be first until this part, comprehensive, comprehensive. One more time.
Okay. Comprehensive.
Good.
Okay. Exposure, enjoyment, engagement,
engagement. Good.
Engagement, highly flexible.
Remember, in this one, it was good. Everything is good, but remember that why is always going to be li, highly. All right, okay. Highly flexible. Good, right? Because it's uniquely, happily, sadly, highly, right? So it's always going to be like li in that part. Good. All right, very good. Now, that was working. Pronunciation is very important, right? For reading, it doesn't matter that it involves pronunciation and speaking. It doesn't matter. It's very important to work that. But the most important part here in terms of writing is the structure. So this is an example of a hook. Remember, yesterday we were working with this. A very attractive sentence. And what are the keywords over here with me that you can take into account? For example, world-changing effect. You can use words like these that are very strong. World-changing effect. You can use superlatives, the best, the worst, the most used, the most comfortable, right? Superlatives are also a good idea for this kind of introductory idea. And remember that it has to be a complete idea because this is the complete idea that we have. And this is the only extra information, but it's still part of that complete idea. So that's the hook. After the hook, you know that you have options. As I told you, for example, in your case with me, you have to rethink the idea of talking about afterlife. If you're still going to talk about that, right, one option is giving background or information of what you need or what you believe afterlife is. You can give keywords, right, definitions of keywords, or you can give backgrounds as you have here, for example, right, background. Here, the topic is internet and education. This is the hook, but the topic is internet and education. The background is describing things about internet in an academic context. So that's related to the topic. And of course, teachers that are involved in education and technology that is related to the internet, right? So this is background related to the hook. Now, it will be good that for tomorrow you have these two. And tomorrow in class, we're going to be working the thesis statement. As you can see, it can be very long. But actually here, not everything is a thesis statement. Actually, the thesis statement is just that. The rest of the ideas that you have there are only extra information or introductions. So it says, right, this concern, while understandable, is misguided. So this is just an introductory idea, not phrase, an introductory idea. Then this is the thesis statement. The topic is internet and education, but my thesis statement is that I believe that the negatives of internet use are overweighted by its critical benefits for students and educators. So this is the idea that you need to defend along your body paragraphs and along your entire essay. And this that you have over here, perhaps is even part of your outline, or you're only giving more examples of what you mean by critical benefits for students, right? As a uniquely comprehensive and accessible information source, semicolon, because that's a complex list of items, a means of exposure, blah, 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 semicolon, this is the second list of the item, right? Or the, sorry, the second item of that list. And finally, and a highly flexible learning environment. And that's the last item on that list. So that is the introduction. You have the three main ideas over there. Let me know if you have questions related to this, please, Whitney, because I'm showing you this to give you an idea of what you're going to be writing tomorrow, because we're going to be following this model. What do you say? Any questions or comments?
Maybe the background have to have where we find the information, right?
Yes, in general, the background can be many things with me. The background can be a general context of the knowledge that you have, right? For example, if you're talking about the internet and education, try to talk about that. Try to talk about how the internet is related, right, to education in academic context, for example, as they are doing here. If you're talking about, for example, diet, let's say healthy food and diet, then your background is going to be, for example, that nowadays, right, people have been using diets, right, more often than before. And you can say that, I don't know, that 20, 30 years ago, people were not used to working on diets, that this is something new, that this didn't happen before. So, for example, that is background. You're telling me what is happening now, and you're telling me what happened before or what did not happen before, right? That is one context. You can give me many kinds of context with me, but it can be, or not, it can be, it should be short, because you can develop these ideas on the body paragraphs, right? Here is only going to be like an introductory idea, but that's one option. Remember that if you don't want to talk about that background or that context, you can give me definition of key terms if that's needed, or you can talk about the outline, what you're going to be talking about, right? It means that you're going to mention the important ideas of your two body paragraphs that you're going to have in this second idea, right? And you can say, for example, in the following essay, I'm going to talk about this and this, right? And that can be, or you can say that in other words, but you can describe what you're going to be talking about if you don't want to mention any context. And finally, is going to be the thesis statement. I don't
So
know.
like,
Yeah.
an affirmation sentence that will be support with the rest of the essay, right?
Yes, you're talking about the thesis statement, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct. And remember that it has to be very specific, because your hook, your topic is very general, is broad. Internet and education, right? So the internet world changing and it's related to education. Very general. But this one, if you see, it's more specific. So it can be a question, but as you can see in very formal writing essays, they state this as an affirmative statement more than a question. So they say, right, the negatives of internet use are outweighed by its critical benefits for students. So that's the thesis statement. If you want, you can add extra information, but be careful with punctuation. If not, it's enough if you work with this part. And that's the thesis statement. Affirmation, that shows a very specific position that you have related to the topic. And that's it.
Okay,
Any
teacher,
other?
thank you.
Very good. All right. So this is a good example. You can follow this. Now, I know that it's time, but as we don't have the other students, let's try to read at least this part, please, Whitney. It's the first part of the body paragraph.
Okay, a common frustration for teachers is students' use of Wikipedia as a source in their writing. Its prevalence among students is not exaggerated. A survey found that the vast majority of the students surveyed used Wikipedia. An article in The Guardian stresses a common objection to its use. a relies on Wikipedia can discourage students from engaging with genuine academic writing.
Okay, good, good. Now, I'm not going to go into details into this one because of the time, but I'm going to mention the following. Look, this is, for example, only one body paragraph. As you can see, it's very, very broad, very complex. And imagine that we are supposed to write 3 body paragraphs, and this is only one. Tomorrow, when we finish working with introduction, which is of course this one, again, when I check your work for Monday, I'm going to be checking this as a sentence by sentence, right? The first one is the hook. It's a good hook, good. The background, you're using the background in the correct way. You are defining interesting keywords. You are mentioning the outline, then it's good, correct. And here you are mentioning the thesis statement. That's the most important. Very good. You have extra information. That's also good, but that's not going to be evaluated. Only the thesis statement. And here, just to finish this, we're going to cover this tomorrow, but to give you, all right, like something in advance, you're going to have a topic sentence for every body paragraph. You're going to have the evidence, but you need to introduce very well the evidence, right? For example, the evidence is this one, but they are not just saying this. As you can see, all of this is the introduction of the evidence. So you need a very good introduction for your evidence. After that, you need an interpretation of that evidence. It means you're going to kind of paraphrase and make the reader understand that you know what you're talking about. So you're paraphrasing, you're interpreting this evidence. The one in green is optional because we have a second thing that we can do. We're going to learn that tomorrow, right? Instead of this counter evidence, we can expand the interpretation and we can talk about one second thing that I'm going to show you tomorrow. And finally, you have the final sentence or the conclusion of your body paragraph. And again, this is only one. This is again just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing tomorrow. Because of the number of words limit that we have, I'm not going to be asking you to write everything. That's why this green thing over here is not going to be taken into account, but I'm going to teach you as well. Instead of this, we're going to keep only the interpretation part and the conclusion so that we can have that in the number of words that we need. But that's it. I don't know if you have any questions or comments related to this to finish with me. Let me know, please.
Not the child, I don't have questions.
Okay, good. Then that's it. Be ready, please, for tomorrow. Again, try to have ready the at least 2 first parts. All right. If you're working on a different topic, try to have that ready. And the second part, and we start working with the thesis statement and of course all the body paragraph. That's it. Thanks for being in the conversation with me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Thank you, teacher. Bye bye.
Bye bye.